started. Thank you everyone for joining another Release Automation webcast. Today we're going to be covering high availability for Release Automation 6.3. Presenting today we have Sachin Srivastava. He is the Engineering Services Architect for the Release Automation product. If you have any questions as we're going through the session today, you can feel free to enter them into the Q&A box in the bottom right-hand corner of your screen, and we'll get to them as soon as Sachin has a second pause in his presentation. We'll also be opening the phone line up to any verbal questions. So if you have any questions you'd rather ask on the phone, you can hold them until the end of today's session when we'll open up the phone line. I'm now going to hand the call over to Sachin. Take it away.
Hey everybody, good morning. Good afternoon to everybody. So my name is Sachin. I'm the Engineering Services Architect for CA, and I have an experience working as a Release Automation Studio engineer. And today I'll be presenting you the configuration of high availability for RA 6.3. So the first question that generally comes into mind with high availability is what is the need for high availability, why it is required at the customer, and why all of a sudden the DevOps model requires a high availability features. So now the question here is every customer, each and every client that requires DevOps or any tools that they are using for DevOps, they require them to be available 24/7. They don't want any downtime. Because if there is an half an hour downtime or 1 hour downtime, there is always an impact to the customer. So in order to save time, we don't want any type of, the customers don't want any type of service interruption at any point of time. So for following that model, you need high availability. So any tool, let it be Jenkins or let it be Release Automation Studio or your artifact repository management, any tool that comes in DevOps, it is highly essential for that tool to be highly available, and it has to be following this availability model throughout. So for today's demo, I'm going to show you how to configure high availability for Release Automation Studio. Now, I have a slide open here which says, I'm on the first page of that, and I'm going to the next page of the slide, and I'm going to give you the agenda for the meeting. So the agenda, first I'll explain why there is sudden need for high availability model among the customers and clients that they want to start using this feature for RA, and this feature is very supportive to like any high availability DevOps tools like Jenkins and your artifact management studio like JFrog or Nexus repository. And also it requires a high availability database as well. So if you don't have a high availability database, you can still use a normal database, but if you want to use the full feature of high availability RA, you need to have a high availability database as well. So in this demo, I'll show you how to configure RA primary and standby server, and I'll tell you how to test your high availability configuration, because once the configuration is done, you have to test it out that your standby server is actually working correctly or not. So I'll do a sample deployment for my standby server, and the same thing I'll do it with my primary server. So for demo purpose, I'll be using a Tomcat server, and I'll be deploying a sample WAR file to that particular Tomcat server. And then I'll test the failover as well, making sure that if my primary is down, my standby is working correctly and it is deploying all the code that is required to be deployed. That's it. So this is the whole agenda of the meeting, and then the demo will be to show you how and when how this RA high availability works, and the exact high availability picture that I'll show you in the demo itself. So currently what I have is I have a machine which has a RA management studio management server already installed, and I have another server which has no installation done. Is a fresh machine, Linux machine, which I will use as a standby server. So currently, if you see my, I'll just start sharing my screen. So just for just starting, so this particular machine is my primary management server, and this is how because I have already installed my Automation Studio before the demo, because I have to eventually do 2 installation, which is not possible in a 1-hour webcast. So I'll be having a previously installed management server available, and I'll make that particular management server highly available. So now this is my how my management server will look like, and this is my primary server. And now this is going to be my like the standby server, which I'm going to show you how to do the installation. So for primary management server, it is basically required to do installation as it is, like you have to provide database configuration, you have to provide your repository server information, etc., etc. But for your standby management server, you just have to skip database installation and skip the management server installation, because we have to configure them manually. So this is the manual part that we have to do for management server, which will make this particular server as a standby. So before I start, like if anybody has any doubt, just they can ask me a question if they have any, and maybe I can give a reply to that before I'll start, because this is just a startup thing. Like you need to have one management server ready, which has some deployment or some process created so that we can test it out, the whole availability picture, but it's not mandatory. If you want to do a configuration from scratch, it is totally possible that you don't have to have any processes or something. You can have a simple 2 server, and you can start installation from scratch. So installation of your primary server should be done using without skipping the database. So everything should be configured during the installation. If you have like Oracle database or some other database, then you can you can skip the installation if you want, but the primary server should be up and running at any point of time, so that it can be used for high availability. So let's get started with installation of the RA 6.3 on standby. So I have 2 servers, the one server which has RA already running, and this is my standby server. So I'll just start the installation here. So as we start the installation, we have to do the installation as it is, but the only part of what we have to skip is the database part and the repository configuration. For primary, I'll show you how the repository is configured, but before before showing you all the details of the primary server, just have to install it so that we can do the configuration once the installation is complete. So now, once you accept all the license agreement and etc., your window will show you, if you see at the bottom, it will show you that you need to do custom installation. So if you want to do custom installation, you can do that. If you want to do a full installation, you can do that. It is not a mandatory thing. For this demo purpose, I'll be doing a custom installation. So for this, I need a release automation management server. Yes. I don't need an execution server. I don't need a demo process. And yes, I'm going to skip the database. So skip database configuration is really important during high availability configuration, because you have to map the same database that is used by your primary management server. And you want to use remote repository, you have to say as no, because remote repository configuration is also needs to be done for your high availability configuration. So for a complete configuration of RA with database and your repository server, you need to make sure that all the components are highly available. So I have created a document. I'll share this document in the end with you, which has everything stated in this. So for your high availability configuration, you need a high availability repository server. Currently, Nexus 2.1 that comes inbuilt with RA does not support high availability features, and RA does not support Nexus 3 and above. So if you want to use high availability repository server, you have to either get JFrog, or if you don't want a high availability repository server, it's okay. You can straight away simply use the Nexus version that is inbuilt with your release automation installer. And then for database, you need to have the enterprise HA or RAC server for Oracle or MySQL, and you have to have the the high availability database as well. So installation. So in this document, I have mentioned the links for how to configure a high availability for MySQL, Microsoft SQL, and Oracle. So this document contains all the data. So before you start with your RA high availability configuration, make sure that the database is high available. And if you want to use other artifact repository like JFrog, that is Artifactory itself. So Artifactory support high availability model, and RA is compatible to the Artifactory HA. So you can have this as well. Now moving ahead with the installation, let's see. Yeah. So I'm starting the installation here. And so this is my primary management server. So two things are important here to note. One thing is that you should have a up and running management server, and you should also check if your JMX console is also working or not. So I'll just check if the JMX console is up and running. In this JMX console is another important part of your configuration, because in the JMX console you have a capability to make your standby server as primary, which I'll show you as well. So just search for keyword for high availability, and there will be a yeah. So there will be a domain for Nolio Center, and there will be a Nolio Center type high availability. So just click on this, and you will see a window which says make my NAC master. So once you invoke this, it will make your current server that you're on as a master. So currently there is no standby server for this particular management server, and the installation is going on at the back. So this will currently act as a master. So if I invoke is my NAC as a master and invoke this, so it will give you I am the master. And similarly, if you invoke this for your standby, it will say it is not the master. And also there is a JMX console for last switch time. So it is always important to note when the failover happened, because sometimes like when you are doing your testing, you don't actually know which server is your actual primary master or master NAC, because sometimes like a data center is down and it's already switched back to the second data center, and you forgot to switch it back to your primary data center. So sometimes what happens is you have to check when was the last time that our data center was down. So in order to check that, just invoke this and you will see the last switch. So last time it was switched to your like standby NAC server. It will give you the information of that. And Also, there is an current master NAC. So if you don't want to invoke this to JMX console, you don't want to invoke all these two, so you can generally invoke the current master NAC. So it will give you which one is your master. So currently, this is my primary server. So for this primary, this is my master NAC. And once the installation is complete for your standby NAC, I'll show you the difference in JMX control. So one way to change your primary and standby NAC is using the JMX console. The second way is from UI itself. So second way, I'll just hold on till the installation is complete, because for showing that I have to actually invoke the URL and show you the logs. Logs actually tells us that your primary NAC is shifting to your standby NAC. So I'll show you all these details once the installation is done. So there are 4 particular, let's open you this. So for installing and configuring RA standby server, these 4 property files are the one that that needs to be changed. So the nolio repo.property. So these contains the information of your artifact repository. So whenever you are using RA, you need to either use an inbuilt Nexus repository that comes bundled in, or there is a standalone Nexus repository. So for this configuration, I'm using standalone Nexus repository. So this is my Nexus repository. And as you can see, this Nexus repository is pointing to my primary NAC. So this configuration is already done previously. For the demo purpose, I have to make sure that the primary management server is up and running, so that I'll just configure you the standby NAC, because 1 hour is not enough time to show you the complete installation of primary and standby. So this is the prerequisite for this demo, is that the Nexus repository is already configured and it is pointing to my primary NAC, and I have done few deployments. So what I'll do is, once I'll switch to my standby NAC, I'll invoke the same deployments again, just to make sure that it's up and running. And let me just open the Automation Studio as well. So from 6.3 onwards, the Automation Studio is open from Chrome. Beforehand, you have to open using IE, but now you can simply open the Automation Studio from Chrome itself. Now it does not give an error that Oracle GRE 8 is required or not. And if you have 1.8 Java already installed on your machine, then you will be able to open it. So for Automation Studio, now it requires to have Oracle GRE 8. So if you have Java 1.8 installed on your machine, then only you will be able to open this Automation Studio. So I'm just opening, and let's just check. Yeah, so if you see, the installation is complete. Now I'll go to the place where the installation was done. And yeah, I can see the installation is complete now, and everything is up and running. Everything is installed, not up and running, because I did not start the service. So nothing is running as of now. So this is just a simple automation management server installation done, and it has nothing in it. So let's start with the configuration. Now, the first thing that you have to modify here is the nolio repo.property, which has the artifact repository. So just simply go to your installation directory, and under conf there will be a file called nolio repo.properties. So just simply open it. Yep. Now you have to do the same on your management, the primary NAC, because you have to actually copy the content of this file to your standby NAC. So I'm just going to open nolio repo.properties here. So as you can see here, I have used this repository server. Just let me just add it here. and for the port number is 8880. So make sure that everything is exactly the same. Now, once the Nexus repository that comes inbuilt, the password for that is Nolio Nolio. But if you install it as a standalone, the password is admin123. So I have not changed the password for admin, so I'll make sure that the password encrypted value is false. Yeah, so I have not encrypted the password. You can encrypt the password. It's totally up to your wish. There is a utility which is already present inside RA. Just invoke this utility. So this is encrypt password.bat. So you have to use encrypt_password.sh for encrypting this particular admin123 password. So after making this change, it is totally up to customer that they generally the customer would always want to encrypt the password and use it because they don't want to share the repository server password, because this is where your actual artifacts will be available. So you don't want to share these password with anybody. Right. So this is complete and just making sure that everything is correct. Right. So now going back to my installation directory, and then I have to go to next place where my these two files are present. So as of now in the PPT, as I mentioned, is that there are 4 files that needs to be added or modified. So the next one is distributed.properties and database.properties. So for this, the easier way out is to just simply copy the file to your to your standby NAC and just replace it. It is not a mandatory thing that you have to replace the file. You can manually edit it also. But for this demo, in order to save time, I'll just replace the file because I have the same configuration done. So before replacing, I'll show you that I have taken already copied the file from my primary NAC to my standby NAC already. These 3 files already I've copied. I did not replace Nolio repo.property because there was a password involved in this. So you don't actually replace the Nolio repo.properties. You only replace distributed and database, and only replace if you have manually entered the database password. So here, if you open the distributed.properties, I have entered the password manually, but you can encrypt the password as well. So you can use the encrypted password as well using this utility. So if you have encrypted the password, it is mandatory to not copy this and change the value. You have to change your values manually, not copying anything. So I'll just go back to place where my distributed properties is present. So it will be under web apps, data management, and webinf. So I'll do a simple diff for this distributed.property just to check what all the differences are there. Right. So if you see here, the only difference is the DB host name and the values for the database. So for this demo, I'm using a SQL Server database. So I have to add the values of SQL Server database. So instead of adding the values, what I'll do is I'll take a backup of this distributed.properties, and I'm just following the naming convention that I follow, and just CPing the file. Right. So this file will be available. Just make sure that 755 access is given for whichever user that you are using to install the RA. So RA can be installed using any user, and it can be started using any user, but that is some other document that is there to configure that part. For this demo itself, I'm just concentrating on the high availability configuration. So if you just open the distributed, because every time you make a change to any property file, it is best to open the file and just confirm that everything is correct or not. So for this, I'm using this database, and my user is this and password is this. So for me, the configuration is correct. Here I'm not using any LDAP, and make sure that the JMX web console is enabled or not. So everything is enabled. So next thing is if for the next and the most important part is you have to edit this database.property. Why? Because by default during the installation, if you skip the database installation, MySQL setting will by default be open. So generally when people do high availability configuration, they miss the step to edit the database.property file, and then they get an error for JDBC connection error or something like that, because actually you will be using some other type of database, but due to your database skip configuration done during the installation of your standby, you will have a by default MySQL setting, and it will by default look for a MySQL. So you don't want to do that. So for this, you have to comment out each and every line for this particular MySQL setting and uncomment whatever database that you are using. If you're using MySQL, then you don't have to do anything. You don't have to copy the database.property from your primary NAC. Just simply change the distributed.properties and you are done with it. So if you are using MySQL, then it's a easier high availability configuration. Now again, since I have copied the database.property file, let me just check if there is any queue or not. Okay, so just copying the database and renaming it. Oh, 15 Feb. Okay, and just opening the file just to make sure that the MySQL is commented and MS SQL is uncommented. Yep. So I can see here that the MS SQL server setting is uncommented, and I am ready. Now, there is one step that is again involved, which is actually not required in some scenario, but I'll just skip that. I'll show you at the end once the server is up and running. So I'll just go back to my the installation directory, and now I'm going to start my automation server. So I'm already have a primary management server already started, and I'm starting my standby. So during the startup, if I'll just tail the logs. Okay, so let's just see if the NolioDM logs. Okay, yeah, so currently it is starting up, so it will take around 2 to 3 minutes to do the startup. And how we are going to test the high availability is the next step, that we are going to just open the high availability, the standby NAC JMX console, and I'm going to show you how to first make the standby as a master. Then there are totally 2 ways or 3 ways you can straight away make your standby as your master. So the document that I have prepared is already there on support CA community. Sorry. So in this, I have shown you the methods at the bottom if you come. So the configuration is as mentioned in, as I showed you that in the document it says that open your distributed.property file and change the value of your database. And similarly for your database.property, uncomment MySQL settings and comment MySQL setting and uncomment your MS SQL or Oracle database settings or whatever type of database you are using, and just restart. So now in the document I have also mentioned how to test your high availability, because it is very important to test your high availability configuration, so that anytime if there is a failure, you have to rule out that there is anything wrong with the configuration. So it is very much recommended to test your high availability so that you can concentrate on your the data center issues or not, or a Linux box issue or not. So sometimes what happens is that your Linux machine itself goes offline for your standby, and your primary you are restarting, and you'll see that your management server is not opening. So during that, you will just go on debugging what is happening in your server. So instead, just make sure that before you start your actual deployment, onboarding new applications, etc., just make sure that you have tested high availability configuration multiple times, so that anytime if there is any failure, you have to rule out that this is because of HA configuration, high availability configuration. So the first method is straight away using the JMS console. I'll show you how to do that. But there is another way to do that, is you have to stop your primary management server. So as soon as you stop the primary management server, automatically as soon as you stop it, automatically your standby server will become active. So in order to make it active, it takes around 3 minutes or 4 minutes to make that particular standby server as NAC. So in currently, it is only a 3 minute or 2 minute based on your RAM or your Linux machine. Sometimes you have 4 cores or 8 cores, something like that, and you have 16 GB RAM. So making your standby NAC as primary, it's easier if you have a good machine, good Linux machine or a Windows machine where you are actually running a release automation. So sometimes the downtime is all 30 seconds. I have seen downtime which has only 30-second downtime and the server is up and running. So it is totally depending upon how you have configured your Linux or Windows server which is using standby, so that you have a very less downtime window. Because now during high availability, you want that if your primary data center, or if you want to do some maintenance on your primary data center, as soon as you shut down, automatically your standby management server should be up and running within no time, so that even if there is a deployment going on, you can resume that deployment on restart. So that is one of the model that we follow, that even if anything is disrupted, any service is disrupted, you can restart the deployment so that the developers have ample of time for testing, so that they'll not say that the services were down and they are not able to do their testing and all. So it is highly important to have RA running as high availability, so that you don't have zero service disruption. And in case something happens, so if you have a good Linux machine or a Windows server, so you'll have around 35 to 50 seconds of downtime, which is, I think, in this current model, it's nothing as far as I know. And this will also rule out your single point of failure. So if your primary data center is gone and you don't have a high availability model, so if your primary data center is gone for, let's say, full day, 24 hours, or like half a day, 12 hours, so for that 12 hours, you are not able to do any deployments and all. So it is a suggested thing to start working and start configuring high availability so that you have zero downtime. Let's see if the server is up and running or not. So currently it is again this is my standby NAC, and what this is doing is mapping the database and mapping the repository server, and make sure that everything that is available on primary management server is available on this as well. So in my primary management server, I have downloaded or installed all the actions. So in this case, you'll see all the 73 installed packs are there. So that is why it is taking a lot of time, for the installation, because it has to install all the 73 installer packs. So when you are doing it from scratch, you have a new server, you will not be facing this much time of installation. This is happening because of the 73 installer packs that I have already installed. So it will take a total of 3 to 5 minutes to install and configure your standby, and like when you restart, it will take 5 minutes. So in 10 to 12 minutes or 15 minutes, you will have the full high availability configuration completed. Let me just check if any question is there. Yep. So I have opened this this log for Nolio DM because I have to show you that once I make this as NAC, this will show a window where it says I am active, and by default your primary NAC will become your standby NAC. So let's just see how much time it will take for and also when you have a high availability array configured, it is best suited to have a load balancer or a VIP virtual IP address to use, so that it is connected to the one that is available. So you can configure your load balancer or your VIP URL to point to the primary NAC. If it is like if the server is changing to your standby NAC, it should automatically point to the standby NAC. So it is best advisable to have a load balancer or a like virtual IP address which can be mapped to both your primary and standby NAC. So currently it is adding all the action packs. Meanwhile, I was going through the document with you, like the third method. So apart from stopping the primary management server services, there is another method. So this is not a recommended method, but it is another method to make your standby NAC as primary. So as you know, the RA server can be the release automation operation center UI can be opened using this URL. So just simply go and click on this. You will have the release operation center open. So this is my primary. So if I change this to my standby NAC, let's say if I do this, this is my standby NAC and click enter. So by default, it will start making that standby NAC as primary. So you have to be very careful opening that particular UI for the Nolio app for standby NAC on your Chrome or any browser, because as soon as you open this Nolio application, it will automatically make your standby NAC as primary. So this is a not recommended method, because then it will create a lot of confusion as why this standby NAC is made primary when there was no data center down or no service disruption for your primary management server, but still your standby NAC is made primary. This generally happens when somebody who tries to access the Nolio application, as soon as you type this URL and hit enter, by default your standby NAC will become primary. So I don't want to do that. So it is best suggested to change your primary, and if you want to test it out, the best suggestion would be to go to your JMX console and click invoke the make my NAC master console, so that it will this is the most recommended. The second one to do is stop the services. The third one is not recommended because it will create confusion unnecessarily that there is a URL, there is a change of NAC master without proper consent or something like that, when you will not know why this NAC was changed, master NAC was changed to standby. Let's just see the URL. So it's still adding the action. And now what happens at the standby side, so that it is always up to date with the database. So what happened at the standby side is there is a sync after 180 seconds. So after every 3 minutes, this standby server will contact your database and contact your repository just to sync the database and the repository server, so that once anything happens to your primary server and anything goes down on your primary server, it automatically ports to your standby, and standby should be capable of running the latest releases without any problem. So what happens at RA standby is this: it syncs every 3 minutes. So that is where it keeps up to date. It is taking a lot of time today for installation, and in the document itself I have mentioned that in order to configure JFrog high availability, there is a link mentioned in this document to configure high availability JFrog. There is a link mentioned to configure high availability Oracle. So you can just simply go to community site, the CA communities, and simply search for HA configuration, and you'll see my document which is there, and it will have a link. Yeah, so it will have this document is available on your CA communities, and you can simply go and check it out. You'll see how the configuration is done, and similarly what I have shown you today in the webcast on a similar front. This document entirely replicates what I have done, like changing distributed or properties, database properties, etc., etc. So all this done. So the common errors that people come across while high availability configuration is that they always miss the database.properties step. If you don't miss that step, you won't be facing any problem. And you have to make sure that your testing for high availability is done multiple times before you actually give it to the developers to start working. Let's just check. So currently it is almost done. So as you can see, this is my this is running very fast, but this is currently mapping the repositories so that the repositories are also synced with your standby NAC. So I'll just open the repository here. So currently this is mapped to my primary NAC, and I'll show you how the changes and settings are done for your standby NAC as well. So just making sure that your standby NAC is up and running. I think it's only 15 minutes remaining for the demo. So I hope this loading. Meanwhile, I'll just open my yep, it is up and running now. So as you can see, this is my standby NAC here, and the JMX console is up and running. Yep. So I'll just go here, and this is my standby NAC and this is my primary. So I'll just say that what is my current master NAC. So it will give you 186076, and is my NAC master. Just invoke this and say I am not the master. So before invoking make my current NAC as master, just make sure that this is complete, the logs are stable, that is not moving that many first, and see that is what I wanted to show you, that it is always syncing up the repository with 180 seconds. 180 seconds, it will again try to skip, try to sync the repository. Now let me just make my NAC master. So as soon as I invoke this, I am the master now. So this is making this particular server as a master. So as soon as I did that, automatically this will start rolling, the logs will start rolling, and it will try to make this as master. Now going back to my my primary NAC, if I go here and just check is my master NAC. So if I invoke this, so it will say I'm not the master. So this is the easiest way to do your testing for your high availability, where you want to make your standby NAC as master. So just go here and simply invoke make my NAC master, and you will make this particular standby NAC as master. And once again, if you want to check it out who is your current master, just click on the third invoke button, and you'll see that it is now the standby server which is master. So during the installation, there will be you will see in the log, you will see something like this. I'll just show you here. So once you invoke this, you will see something like this, like it will say, I am active here. Something like this will come, which after that you can log into your Nolio application, just like this, just going from here. And I'll just simply click on 7. So it's currently loading, and as simple like the way that you are accessing your primary NAC. On a similar front, you will make this standby NAC as primary, and you invoke using the same way that you are using to invoke your primary NAC. And let's just check the logs here. Let's not yet update it in the logs. Let's just see. After 180 seconds, it will just say that this is now standby. This is not a master NAC anymore, and this now becomes your the second server becomes your master. So it's taking a lot of time to load. Let's just check if anybody has any questions. Sure, I'll add that, Michael. Thanks for suggesting. I'll just add it as not recommended method. Yep. Okay, I'll add the Windows base as well. So no problem with that. I will add Windows. Thanks for giving your feedback, Michael. I'll add that as well. So I'll show Linux because this is very fast, and for this demo itself, showing Linux is fast because it is up and running within no time. So this is my, as I was telling, this is my primary NAC, but as you can see, this becomes a passive NAC as soon as I make my standby NAC as primary. Just a second, one question at a time. And the next question is from Luke. What happens to deployment of process that are running when the, okay, so if your deployment is running in your primary and by any chance your deployment is did not go through because your primary is down, as soon as the your standby NAC, you can resume that particular deployment, because once primary becomes down, that deployment will stop. So you have to resume it in your once your standby NAC becomes master. What parameter config is which is identifying the NAC as primary or secondary? That I showed you in your the way to test it out, which is your primary or your master. You can check it from the JMX console. So as you can see that you don't have to check any configuration or parameter anyway. Simply go to the JMX console and check it out which is your primary and which is your NAC. So that is easier way rather than finding out which one is your primary and which one is your standby NAC. JMX console.
Thanks.
Yeah. Yeah, it's the JMX console. This is the management console that is there. So simply go here and check who is the current master, and simply invoke this and it will give you the answer to that question. Right. So now just I'm waiting for this particular service to be up, and I'll be adding the required recommended things surely. Thanks Michael for your input.
Okay, we have another question in from Christopher. You have mentioned a prerequisite to have a local Nexus repository. We use a standalone Nexus repository and then have DFSR configured for a backup standalone repository. Would it be possible to configure HA with a standalone Nexus repository?
So the answer to this question is that if you have a local Nexus repository, you won't be able to do a high availability configuration. You need to have a standalone Nexus repository. So yes, configuring HA with standalone Nexus repository is possible. If you have a local Nexus repository that comes inbuilt with your array, you won't be able to make that particular repository as your high availability. You have to make sure that you have a standalone Nexus repository. So Christopher, does this answer your question?
Okay, might put the answer in there. We'll see if Christopher has any follow-up.
Yep,
any other questions, guys? Once again, you can enter it into the Q&A box in the bottom right-hand corner of your screen. At this point, we'll also open it up for verbal questions. If you'd like to ask a question over the phone, you can click #6 on your telephone keypad to unmute yourself. And Christopher said yes, that does answer his question. Thank you.
Yes, sure. Thanks, Christopher. So now currently what is happening is, if you see the Nolio application is up, I'm waiting for the screen which says I'm live. So which is the one that I look for. As soon as the installation is done, the screen that I look for is I am a live one. So I think it's not yet up. So it will take around 3 to 5 minutes for the servers to be up and running.
Okay. In the meantime, we have another question from Giuseppe. Suppose you start with a non-HA configuration, NAC and repository on the same machine. Is it possible to move this configuration to a fully HA one? Yes, for NAC, according to what you told us. But what about repository? Is it possible to move it to two external machines?
Yes, repositories. So what you have to do is copy the content of the repository. So whatever content that you have for this Nexus repository, you have to copy the entire content of Nolio, Nolio Actions, and Nolio Manifest. So these are the 3 repositories that I have added that is getting used in your deployment. So if you have multiple repositories, you can add all the multiple repositories. What you have to do is you have to transfer the content of your local repository to your standalone or your new repository that you have created. So all you have to do is copy the content of Nolio Actions, Nolio and Nolio Manifest, or any other repository that you have created specifically for your application. Copy that content. So I'll show you how to copy the content. So just simply go into here. Let's say, so there will be under the installation directory, so this is my installation directory. Under this, there will be something called Sona type work. If I go into that, so this is something which is a Nexus inbuilt repository that comes inbuilt with your RA. If you have to install, there is another exe that comes, or exe or ss file that comes in the DVD bundle, that the ISO image that is there for RA. So in that, there will be a standalone script or a exe file for your Nexus. So install that, and then post installation, what you have to do is go inside your Sona type work, Nexus, then storage, and then you will have all three folders: Nolio Actions, Nolio Manifest, and Nolio. So copy all these three folders to your newly created Nexus repository. So after you copy this, automatically you will see in your UI that these three are added. So does this answer the question? Okay, thanks. So again, once again, it is taking a lot of time. I don't know why today it is taking a lot of time to make this standby NAC as primary. Yeah, so as I was telling, you will always, once the standby is moved to as a primary NAC, you will see this window where it says I'm active. So once you see this window, you will simply go and log in to your management server, and you'll see this. If this error which I told that I'll skip and show you at the end, sometimes during the installation this error comes where your dashboard is not loading correctly. So as you can see that my dashboard is not loading correctly. I'll just reset it to default. So if you can see that this is not loading correctly, so this is something that a JSON file is missing during the installation. So what you have to do is you have to go to your opt, release, automation, web apps, data management, and then there will be a folder called I18N, and there will be a folder called widgets. So this is the enus.json file, which is the one that is required to be copied to your standby. This generally doesn't happen, but in case if it happens, so what you have to do is copy the same file to the one that is present on your standby. So it will be present under web apps, data management, and I18N. So what you have to do is first you have to make a directory called widgets, and just make sure that you're there. So here I'm using the command for copying. So I'll just copy. So once I copy this, it will automatically be present here. And as soon as this is present, what I'll do is I have to clear cookies here, clear my browsing histories or clear cookies, and refresh this page. So as soon as I refresh this page and I log in, and switch to advanced mode, so automatically the widget problem will be resolved. So it is not generally that happens every time you do this installation, but if in case that happens, what you have to do is you have to copy the NUS.json file, which is present under your primary management server I189N widgets folder. So this is simply just copy this NUS.json file. This was happening to me during the installation, so that is why I kept a note of it. It will generally not happen if you are doing everything correctly installation. But sometimes for me, it happens that the file does not get copied here. So that is why I have mentioned in the PPT that you need 4 files just in case. This is the 4th file, and this is just in case you are not sure, like your the dashboard widgets are not loading, so you need to copy that file. So I'll just run a simple deployment just to test it out that my standby is working correctly. And since I'm already 2 minutes over, just run it quickly so that what happens is, like, this is a deployment that is done for my Tomcat server. So my Tomcat server is currently available on, this is the 3rd machine which has a Tomcat installed. So what I'll do is I'll simply log into this. So this is the Tomcat server that I have, which has, okay, I'll just copy the name. So I have this sample application deployed here. So I'll just redeploy it using the Release Automation Center. So just let me create a deployment plan demo. Just quickly, I'll create a deployment plan here. Build number is 5, create for template. So this is a basic RA procedure that I'm doing is I'm doing a deployment using template. This can be done from like Jenkins as well. So I'm just doing it. So I think I'm already 4 minutes overdue. Like, let's just quickly deploy it. And next thing, if you want to make your this NAC as master, so what you have to do is just invoke this button, and automatically your NAC will become this master will your primary management server will become your primary NAC again. So just to make sure what I'm talking about, so just who is your current master NAC? So it will be 077 now. As soon as you invoke this one, it will make your primary management server as your primary NAC. So let's just see the deployment is going on. Yeah, so see the file is copied at February 15, 12:05, and the deployment is completed, right? So as you can see here, the deployment is up and completed, and the Tomcat server is up and running. Just to make sure. Yes, so this will, I have not changed the version. I should have changed the version so that you would have seen the difference, but it's okay. For the demo perspective, it's doing a sample deployment. And after I make this as master, so as soon as I invoke this, this will become master, and automatically this will show the current master NAC as this. So this is the most easiest and the most simplest way to test it out. And I'll just go back and just open the Nolio DM log just to check. So you will get a message here that this has now become a passive NAC, and at the end of the log, and there will be a log that says that this is a passive NAC, and it will automatically sync with the repository in 180 seconds. So once that message comes, that is 100% sure that this is now your standby. And once again, I'll go back here. And this is automatically becoming a master. So you can test it multiple times. You can stop your, during the deployment, you can actually stop your or port your primary management server to your standby management server, and actually you can test it out, resuming the deployment or check how is deployment running and everything. So basically, once the deployment or this high availability configuration is done, it is okay. So Michael, this is what I have seen. This is not general issue. That it is not an issue that is coming, but there is in community there is some point added in the community as well, that if there is a missing JSON, you just have to copy it from your primary. But sometimes what happens is that in your primary NAC, what happens is that this nothing gets loaded, and you'll see a message that nothing is loading here, and you say no system administrator, like contact a system administrator or something like that error is coming. So for that, there is some other resolution. If only widgets are not loading, just have to copy the JSON file. But if there is some other error that you will see where it says that don't have access, contact system administrator instead of all these things, then actually you need to do something else, because then something is wrong from the installation perspective. And for that, there is some database query that needs to be run. For this particular error where your widgets are not loading, it's a simple JSON file missing. You can simply copy it from your primary. But it is not an error that comes every time you install your standby NAC. This was coming for when I was doing configuration for this particular machine. It was coming for this only. So I made sure that I copied this file every time I do the installation. So as you can see here, let's see if this is primary. So Michael, does that answer your question? Okay. So anybody has any other question? Like I think I'm already 10 minutes over the scheduled call. So if you have any question, like you can simply ask in the communities, or if you know that I am always active on the communities giving answers. So like I can simply open a discussion and we can discuss what is the issue that you're facing here. So I'll be here as I am available in communities as well for discussion if you want.
Okay, great. Thank you so much, Sachin. So as we said, if you have any questions, follow-up questions on this, you can feel free to post them to the Release Automation community. We'll also be posting the recording, the slides, and the Q&A transcript from today's session to the community later today. And we'll send that out to you guys in a thank you email. I am launching a poll right now. If you have a second before you jump off, please let us know what you thought of today's topic. We value your input when we're planning out future webcasts. We do have a few more webcasts planned for Release Automation for February and March. We have RA integration with Team Foundation Server and configuring SSL for Release Automation. So if you're interested in either of those sessions, you can go ahead and RSVP on the Release Automation community and let us know that you're coming. Other than that, thank you so much, everyone, for joining. Thank you so much, Sachin, for the presentation today. And we hope everyone has a great day, and we'll see you out on the communities. Thank you.
Thanks, everyone. Thanks a lot. Have a good day all. Thanks.